気を取り直して教室に行きましょう。
Class of Heroes is a unique series that always seemed to scratch that dungeon crawler itch between Entry and Odyssey releases for me. Although the first-person dungeon crawling systems are about the only thing that they have in common, the entries pushed your understanding of sim and party management within a dungeon crawler. Its adorable illustrations and promise of grand adventures mask its hardcore systems, and with this updated release, players are able to wholly invest themselves in a definitive package. Class of Heroes 1 and 2 Complete Edition contains the first two entries of Class of Heroes, with Class of Heroes 2 featuring the enhancements added from the 2G version. If you're new to the genre, the opening will come with some hurdles. In fact, I feel like this game wants you to make early mistakes, such as spending all your money on one sword or building a party without healing or magic support. It's these early hurdles that will make or break your experience as well. But experimentation is key, so once you realize that you may have screwed up after a couple hours of finding your bearings, you can truly enroll in the Class of Heroes. Class of Heroes 1 will likely be the more difficult experience for newcomers, but it features the foundations of systems that the entire series will follow. Firstly, you enroll at Partica's Academy to assist the school and the students in ushering them to greatness. The actual narrative of this entry is pretty light, and while you'll get to know the faculty across the campaign, most of your time is spent micromanaging your students' daily lives to improve their combat capabilities, along with upgrading the school's facilities. As you build out your party of 6, you'll send them to classes which will raise their base stats and explore dungeons that exist around the school after accepting missions. The game loop is the most straightforward element of this title, but navigating it requires some deep understanding of party management and organization without too much instruction. This is not a game that will hold your hand, and although late game comebacks can happen, there are choices that can really harm your runs as you attempt to manage time before party members graduate or specific milestones need to be met. If you are just beginning your Class of Heroes journey today, it might be a better choice to jump into Class of Heroes 2, at least to learn the basics. In my experience playing these games on PSP and PS3, as they were released, Class of Heroes 2G is the better place to start. Class of Heroes 2 features updated classes, more options, new dungeons, and also a few story-driving characters to interact with. It follows the same structure of the original, with more tutorials and directions to keep the game from being overly punishing in the later hours. Here, you have a few more paths to completing missions and raising your students, which keeps the gameplay loop from growing stale. Still, the randomized nature of the game can easily cause frustration when your party is so reliant on rerolled stats and maybe not getting into too many early game battles because wasting money, healing, and nursing characters will probably hurt progression. Ultimately, Class of Heroes 1 and 2 Complete Edition are games with a bit of a grind attached to them. You are consistently building up your skills and making choices for your party that could better improve their battle capabilities, but you're doing all of this against a timer and the ever-looming graduation day. Even though the party's personalities are kind of non-existent, I couldn't help but feel attached to them, and it makes for some great RPG adventures. The odds are constantly stacked against you here as you attempt to organize missions, courses, equipment, and resources, and then there are the dungeons. Further, party organization and affinity between students become highly necessary in later hours, given that you'll need to develop powerful combos and skills to take them on. Battles in Class of Heroes 1 and 2 Complete Edition take place in the first person. You have a back and front row of 6 characters and various formations that you can customize. While the opening hours will likely be spent just smashing attack, once you get a nice pool of skills from leveling up, you can begin strategizing your approach to combat. The differences between the two titles come mostly down to available classes and ease of dungeon exploration. I think Class of Heroes 1 is the least user-friendly in this area, with Class of Heroes 2 featuring better designs and direction. Even though I played Class of Heroes on PSP for 60 hours when it was initially released, I had a bit of trouble getting back into the grind-heavy mindset. With that said, this makes for a great release on Switch due to the portability of the console. I played using the ROG Ally, and found the experience to be comparable to how these games were originally meant to be played. The updated systems of Class of Heroes 1 and 2 Complete Edition are mostly cosmetic. I'm sure there has been some fine-tuning to the systems, but this experience seemed pretty straightforward. The real missing piece of the collection is Class of Heroes 3, but hopefully this title will lead to that game finally being released in the West. Other than that, This is Class of Heroes 1 and 2, an addictive and challenging dungeon crawling JRPG, and that's still present on this collection. Still, I did notice that some of the audio levels were off and almost peaking in some areas. Hopefully this gets fixed. Further, the updated localization was great. I imagine this had to be done due to licensing with other publishers having initially released the titles, but it didn't change my experience with the series, so I'd count this as a positive. Class of Heroes 1 and 2 Complete Edition preserves the series' challenging and micromanaging systems for everyone to play. It's a great way to enjoy an afternoon, but approach it with reservation because even though I find this type of experience cathartic and addictive, its demand for player understanding isn't the most user-friendly. Wizardry and Etrian fans will feel right at home here, but newcomers should approach with caution. So, if you've been waiting to enroll in the Class of Heroes, now's the perfect chance. Noisy Pixel is giving Class of Heroes 1 and 2 Complete Edition an 8 out of 10. Thanks for watching. This video is brought to you by our supporters on Patreon. Noisy Pixel is run by a group of gamers providing independent gaming coverage through news, reviews, previews, and more. Check out our Patreon to help support our continued growth, and subscribe to keep up with all our future content.
Noisy Pixel.